So let's start. Now, your module 4 is about human rights. Refugee Blues is the next poem. It was written by W H Auden. Got it? So I'll give you,
Sir,
yeah, I'll give you an introduction to this poem. I mean, the context of this very poem. Refugee Blues was written in March 1939 when anti-Semitism was at its height in Germany. It laments the sad plight when the Jewish people were being persecuted by the Nazi regime. So the context is, and one term is very important here, that is anti-Semitism. That term is really important here. Okay. So what is anti-Semitism? I'll give you what is anti-Semitism. And the very context of this poem is it was written in March 1939. Okay, 1939. The date was really pertinent because it was the time of Second World War. Got it. And anti-Semitism was at its height in Germany. It laments the sad plight when the Jewish people were being persecuted by the Nazi regime. Got it. So Jewish people. So this poem is about Jewish people. It laments the sad plight and the very hard experiences of Jewish people. Okay, they were being persecuted. They were being killed by the Nazi regime. Got it. So I'll give you what is anti-Semitism. See, anti-Semitism is a hostility to prejudice or discrimination against Jews. That means a person who holds such a position is called an anti-Semite. Have you got the point? Anti-Semitism is considered to be a form of racism. You know, the form of racism. Blacks are being treated as slaves. They are being considered as slaves, right? And they are racially discriminated because of the skin of their or the color of their skin, right? So likewise, Jews were persecuted. Jews were discriminated, or there's an hostility, or there's a prejudice, or there's a discrimination against Jews. Jews, a person who holds such a position is called an anti-Semite. And you'll have lots of movies on anti-Semitism, that like The Believer. And Jojo Rabbit is one of the best satires. Jojo Rabbit. Okay. Then Denial, Focus, etc. These are some of the movies that deal the pivotal theme as Semitism, anti-Semitism. That means a hostility towards Jewish. Got it. A hostility or a discrimination towards Jewish people, that they are considered as lower caste people, or they are ostracized always from the mainstreams of the society. They are marginalized. To some extent, we can say they are marginalized. Okay. And anti-Semitism, that's a hostility toward or discrimination against Jews as a religious or a racial group. Got it. In the way of religious, or in the way of racially or religiously, they are discriminated. Got it. And racially, they are lower caste or lower rank society. Religiously, they are not up to the mark. The term anti-Semitism was coined in 1879 by the German agitator Wilhelm Marr to designate the anti-Jewish campaigns underway in Central Europe at that time. Okay, you can have the picture of William Marr. He's a writer and he's an agitator to designate the anti-Jewish campaigns. It's a campaigns against this Jewish or anti-Semitism, or this racial discrimination. So this is what we call anti-Semitism. So as far as this poem is concerned, refugee blues. You see that term refugee, refugees, blues. Blues, I'll tell you what is blues. Got it. It has another significance here in this context. And let me remind you of a wonderful book which deals anti-Semitism. That is The Invisible Wall. Invisible Wall, a love story that broke barriers. That's a subtitle. That's a subheading of this tag of this book. Which was such a wonderfully charming memoir written when the author was 93. It was written by Harry Bernstein, and it deals with the theme of anti-Semitism, right? See, one of the most interesting parts of this novel is it's such a splendid work, and it was written when the author was 93. You see that age 93. Got it. And he details every nuances. He details every nook and corner of his childhood places in detail. See, he was 93 when he wrote this book. And I want when you read this book, you'll want his remembrance. Vibrantly brings to life an all but forgotten time and place. And it's a moving tale of working class life and of the boundaries that can be overcome by love. Got it. The Invisible Wall. If you find this book, don't spare it. A love story that broke barriers and of the boundaries that can be overcome by love. Got it. And it tells the story of see the it's an autobiographical one. It's a memoir, in fact. You see, the narrator the narrow street where Harry Bernstein, that means the author, grew up in a small English mill town, was seemingly unremarkable. It was identical to countless other streets in the countless other working class neighborhood of the early 90s, except for the invisible wall that ran down its center. There is, in fact, no invisible wall, but there is a wall, there is an invisible wall, there is there is an invisible wall that ran down its center. See, it's a tale of a street dividing Jewish families on one side from Christian families on the other. See, it tells the tale of a street where it is divided by Jewish families and Christian families on the each side. You got it. Only a few feet of cobblestone separated Jews from Gentiles, but socially and mentally they were miles apart. They lived together in the same street, but socially and mentally they were miles apart. It's because of the anti-Semitism, because on the one side it is Jews, on the other side it is a Christian, and Christians are not supposed to go to the Jew side, and Jews are not supposed to enter into the Christian border. So it's a terribly it's a wonderful piece of literature, and see, this is really pertinent as far as and you can connect this text to the theme of anti-Semitism, right? Socially and mentally they were miles apart. Got it. When they lived together, that only a few feet of cobblestone separated Jews from Gentiles. A few feet, just a few feet of miles. Just a few feet of space separated Jews from the Christians. But they are mentally and socially miles apart. So, what I'm telling you is this is the importance, or this is the plight of Jews, that they are ostracized. They are always ostracized from the mainstreams of the society. They are not supposed to enter. They are not supposed to enter into the Christian families or the Christian side, etc. They were always treated as a separated one, as an other people, right? So the fact is, they were always relegated. They were always relegated, and they were always defenestrated. So this is the plight of Jews, that they suffered quite a bit at the time of 1950s, 60s, and 40s. You got it? Because anti-Semitism was at its peak. Got it? Hope it is clear. What is anti-Semitism? That is, it's a hatred towards uh, Jews. It's a hatred towards Jews. You got it. So the Christians and other religions believe that they are lower caste people. They are racially and religiously discriminated. Got it. So let's come to the poem. And before that, let me introduce the author, W H Auden was an English poet, a playwright, a critic, and a librettist. Winston Hugh Auden exerted a major influence on the poetry of the 20th century. A 20th century poetry, that's modern poems. Auden grew up in Birmingham, England, and was known for his extraordinary intellect and wit. So he was one of the most important poets of the 20th century. His first book, Poems, was published in 1930 with the help of T.S. Eliot. As you know, T.S. Eliot was considered as one of the seminal figures of modernist poetry. Got it. Because he has created a new wavelength, or he has created a new system, or a new way of writing, as far as this modernism is concerned. Got it. And his seminal work, The Wasteland, can be considered as a quintessential for modernist work. You got it. So W H Auden was an English poet, was a playwright, was a critic, and a librettist. Was an activist also, right? And just before World War II broke out, Auden immigrated to the United States, America, where he met the poet Chester Coleman, who became his lifelong lover. And Auden won the Pulitzer Prize in 1948 for The Age of Anxiety. That is a wonderful piece of work. Much of his poetry is concerned with moral issues and evidences a strong political, social, and psychological context. Got it. So he was a prolific writer and won the Pulitzer Prize for The Age of Anxiety, I've told you, in 1947. And in 1955, the National Book Award for The Shield of Achilles. The Shield of Achilles is also a wonderful piece of work where you have allusions of Achilles, and the present context and the ancient context is juxtaposed together. So in 1958, he moved to Austria and settled in a village near Vienna. Then he died of a heart attack in 1973. And he is buried in a Poets' Corner of Westminster Abbey. So this is just a briefing of the poet W H Auden. Okay, so please keep in mind. And now let me give you what is blues. See, the title of the poem is Blues, right? See, blues is a very slow, sad song, traditionally with three-line stanzas with four beats to each line. So it's a sad, traditional song. The music features blue notes. It's known as blue notes. That's the lyrics or the music that is known as blue notes. Mainly flattened thirds and sevenths, the blues were first sung by African American working on slave plantations in the southern states of the USA. See, these melancholy ballads expressed the unhappiness of the slaves, slaves' lives. So later, blues became a part of the development of popular song and jazz. You know, jazz is a popular song in the Afro-American countries. Jazz. So blues is also something like jazz, and it was developed and got popularized with jazz. Got it. So this is blues, refugee blues, and another. The first term is refugee. Refugee. So that's a really important term here because The Jews and all other people, they were marginalized religiously and racially. What is refugees? Why they become refugees? So it is explained in the uh, poem. And before we go to the poem, let me give you something about the poem, just an introduction to the poem. So the title is Refugee Blues. I've given you what is blues. Got it. Refugee Blues. So it's refugees music. And it's a poem by W H Auden, written in 1939. One of a number of poems Auden wrote in the mid to late 1930s in blues and other popular meters. And that date is significant because it was a turmoil, it was a disturbed condition in 1939. It was the beginning of World War II. And for example, the meter he used, a popular meter here in this poem. Okay, the meter he used in his love poem Calypso, written around the same time. The poem dramatizes the condition of Jews. So this is what's happening there in the poem. The poem dramatizes the condition of Jewish refugees from Nazi Germany in the years before World War II, especially the indifference and antagonism they faced when seeking asylum in the democracies of the period. So that's the very gist of this poem. See, once again, the poem dramatizes the condition of Jews, the plighted condition of Jews, the disturbances, the problems suffered by Jewish refugees from Nazi Germany in the year before World War II. Okay, I do remind you again another beautiful uh, movie that is Schindler's List. Okay, that's one of the significant movies that comes in the very first of the list. Okay, you just Google it. That means most popular movies, best movies ever. You'll have this Schindler's List in the first 10. You got it. So this is what's happening there in the movie. Also, the poem dramatizes the condition of Jewish refugees from Nazi Germany in the years before World War II, especially the indifference and antagonism. That indifference and antagonism, hatred towards Jewish people, they faced when seeking asylum, a haven in the democracies of the period. So that's a very gist of this poem. Okay, so this poem is set in Germany in 1930s when the Jewish people were being persecuted by Nazi regime. Refugee Blues is one of the poems about a sad and a terrible plight of being a Jew in the wrong place at the wrong time. This is again just an introduction to the poem. That means it's a poem about a sad and a terrible plight of being a Jew. So being a Jew was a crime. Being a Jew was an offense. So that was a terrible situation in the wrong place at the wrong time. That they are not supposed to come to. They are not supposed to live at that time. Obviously, as a refugee, the couple has lost their home, their country, and their identity. See, they are ostracized from the society and they didn't have their identity. They lost their home, they lost their identity, self, and the belongings. The melancholy feeling comes through strongly in blues, a sad song. So that's why it's a sad song, and because it details the very what plights of or the very conditions of Jewish people. And though the poem is about two people at a particular time in the past, the thoughts and feelings of the poem's narrator might be similar to situations in any part of the world today. So what I'm trying to say is this: there's a particular to general theory here, that it details very particular conditions of the couples, what how they felt, how they experienced all those things, right? But you can connect and you can generalize this theme, and you can generalize this poem, that The thoughts and feelings of the poems narrator might be similar to situations in any part of the world today. Okay, so likewise, this poem is really important. Okay, so this is something about the poem Refugee Blues. I'll give you the lines in the next class. Okay, I hope you have got an introduction. I've got an idea about the about this poem, right?